Once you're labeled the best, you want to stay up there. And you can't do it by loafing around. Larry Bird said that, and I'm saying this. Welcome to High and Low. Good day and good night. Welcome to the High and Low Basketball Podcast. This is episode number 100 and Iverson.
We talking about practice.
AKA episode number 103.
Woo!
3 is the number one by one of the most celebrated and polarizing players of all time, Allen Iverson, AI. He deserves his own episode of High and Low, to be honest. I mean, I'll say this about Allen Iverson. There are a small number of players that have been transformative and revolutionized the game the same way that Allen Iverson has in all of the NBA 75 years, technically and culturally. You know, many fans and NBA writers have mixed feelings about the answer, but his impact can't be denied, man. I mean, we'll get into that on a future episode during the offseason, but AI, can't deny that, man. Anyway, my name is Ike Amaechi, and today's starting lineup is Ugo, Mitch Orsatti, Sean Khan, and Stephen Leslie. Yes, it's a full house. Around here, we live by the strict code governed by the High and Low Life Society, which means we talk about basketball, especially and specifically the NBA, and we talk about it at any time, anywhere, north, south, east, west, high, and low. This week on High and Low, we're talking about how NBA officials, the refs, how they have impacted the playoffs, especially looking at what we call a flagrant foul, flagrant 1, flagrant 2. And then we're getting into a discussion about the difference between your favorite player and the best player in the league. There's a difference, or is there? Stay tuned for all of that. Before we lock in, let's check in. As mentioned at the top of the episode, I'm joined by Ugo, Mitch, Stephen, and Sean. In the old days of High and Low, after 100 plus episodes, I think we can say we have old days. Anyway, in the old days, I used to record my part while out in the world, especially the local park, while my kids would get some shots up. It's been a while, too long since I did that. Here we are, doing it again. If you listen closely, you can hear them working on their Euros and the reverse layups. See, my daughter, she's going to be a star. She's not going to get cut like Tia Cooper. Tell you that.
That's a red.
Too soon. Too soon.
Why would you
Never too soon. Never too soon.
That's terrible.
God.
You hear that, Steven?
She might.
Hear that, Steven?
There he is again.
Hear that, Steven?
Yeah, there he is.
My daughter ain't going to get cut like Tia Cooper, like top 5.
Might get locked up.
What's her name? Liz Cambridge comes into town and Tia Cooper leaves.
That's not what happened.
Huh?
They did media day together and everything. Pictures.
Oh.
Damn.
Sponsored by Sims. Anyway,
No.
have any of you hooped outside since the weather's warmed up?
Can I tell a quick story?
Yeah, man. Go ahead.
I tried to go to a drop-in ball yesterday. I get there and they're like, "Oh, do you have your ticket?" I'm like, "Oh no, it's drop-in." And they're like, "Well, you have to buy your ticket online." "Well, you don't have to buy it. It's free." I'm like, "So, sorry, what?" And she's like, "Well, that's how the drop-in works." I'm like, "Well, you realize what you're saying? It's not a drop-in." She's like,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I guess not. I'm like, okay, so
Oh, Mitch.
what the hell?
Let me explain to you why there's a ticketing system.
Don't
okay?
explain anything to me. I don't need your explanations. I want to be mad and I want to be comfortable in my anger. I don't need you to solution this for me. Damn.
Okay. I'll save it for offline. But there is a reason why there's a ticketing system.
So this is the regular thing in that city?
A regular thing in that city.
Goodness gracious. That's why they ain't got no ballers.
No, we got ballers. We got goons and shenanigans going on there. So that's why they do tickets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got issues.
Anyway, Ugo, Stephen, Sean, Mitch, I appreciate your time this week. Thank you for joining me, listeners. High and Low Lives, thank you for joining us for yet another installment of the program. Another week. Who's breathing like that?
Jeez.
What happened there?
Oh man.
Let's give it one more try. Let's get back in the groove.
Anyway, another week, another episode, more NBA, some more High and Low. This week in NBA history,
Ooh, swish.
Curry was king again. Last week I mentioned Stephen Curry winning his first MVP on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. This week it feels like deja vu because on May 10th, 2016, Stephen Wardell Curry, Splash Brother #1, greatest shooter of all time, future Hall of Famer, future top 10 of all time, became the first player in NBA history to be named MVP unanimously. Not anonymously, but unanimously. 131 first place votes. He was only the 11th player to win the award back-to-back. Last player to do that before Curry did is Curry's comp at the time, Canadian, South African, Steve Nash. Curry took an amazing 2014-2015 campaign and came back with an even better 2015-2016 campaign where he led the league in scoring and he led his Warriors to the best record of all time with 73 wins, eclipsing the 96 Bulls 72 in 95-96. A lot of people are watching that final 73rd win. It happened the same night that Kobe had his very last game in which he scored 60 against the Utah Jazz. By the way, that particular night is the night that Sean Khan became a Kobe Bryant fan. Yes, on the very last day of the man's career.
Whoa. What the did you just say to me?
Anyway, moving right along. Curry and the Warriors owned the regular season until a phantom groin shot would change everything and lead to the 3-1 meme in 2016. Anyway, let's not talk about that because, anyway. Let's focus on the achievement that was Curry's unanimous 2016 MVP crown. By the way, you guys know the other players who were nominally considered for MVP that year?
Jeez, no, I don't. LeBron, I guess, probably.
Yeah, that's a safe one. Yeah.
KD.
Was it Paul George?
KD was on there. Paul George was not. No.
Kawhi?
No,
I'm surprised.
Westbrook?
Oh, I think Steven just said it. Kawhi. Yeah, and Westbrook. Yes, Sean, your favorite. Russell Westbrook. Anyway, that's a little something for the NBA history nerds. Things are certainly happening in the NBA today, so let's talk about it.
Let's talk about something important.
I have a listener question. It's from Brian in Boston, Massachusetts. Brian, I don't like your team, but I'm just making an assumption that it's your team. I don't want to make that assumption because maybe you don't like the Celtics.
In which case,
you know what? I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah, if you're from Boston and you don't like the Celtics, you're A-okay in my books.
Yeah, let's go with that. Brian from Boston.
Who hates the Celtics.
Who hates the Celtics. Here's your question. What do you think of the flagrant foul calls during the playoffs? Are the calls creating a softer version of the NBA playoffs compared to before? Great question. It's very topical and something that we've all been discussing behind the scenes. So what do you guys think?
Well, I for one, I don't like the amount of flagrants that are being called. What I've sort of seen is that they've taken intent out of the equation. Like a guy could be making a normal basketball move and just happen to contact their opponent accidentally and get a flagrant. I think up until 2 or 3 years ago, the refs were considering intent, but it doesn't seem like they are anymore. I think the amount of flagrants that are being called are ridiculous. I think the league needs to do something about it. I think bringing intent back into the equation, like make it a judgment call for the refs. Like I think they're trying to take that responsibility away from them, but that's why they're there too, right? They're there to see how the game's going and the temperament of the players involved, and I think they need to give the ref back that power. Did the guy make a regular basketball play and just happened to strike the opponent, or were they making an awkward play and intended on contacting the opponent without making a play on the ball? They've essentially taken that question right away from the rest, and they're just calling any play that is dangerous, regardless of intent, is now a flagrant. That's, I think, the biggest difference so far in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because it's almost like it's a reaction to how the player reacts on the receiving end of that. Like if the player's down and hurt and it seems like it's a serious injury or a semi-serious, or maybe they're playing it really well. Like they're, some of these guys they'll act it up, looking at you, Jimmy Butler. And sometimes the ref, it seems like they'll at least review the play just based on the severity of, of the player's reaction. Anyway, I know Mitch wants to chime in on this one.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think there's 2 fouls that happened in the Raptors and 76ers series where Joel Embiid was involved in both. The first one, he absolutely clobbered Chris Boucher in the neck, and Boucher went down for like 1.5 seconds, and then Embiid walked over him, and Boucher got up. No review, just like you said. He didn't milk it. He didn't ham it up for the cameras. And then Pascal comes down after Joel Embiid hits the airplane and elbows Embiid in the face, and that's called a common foul. They review it, and then Doc challenges, and then they call it a flagrant, even though that was a basketball play, right? That's a basketball play that Pascal makes, 10, 15 times a game. And Pascal immediately goes up and apologizes afterwards. But that's a flagrant because Joel Embiid grabs his face, runs into the crowd. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. That's the part that concerns me, is that it's not even about the play. It's more about the player's reaction, or the player's reaction on the receiving end, of course. It's happening across all series right now.
Yeah.
Even in Celtics Bucks, it was Al Horford who had someone come down on him. I think
it was Bobby. I think it was Bobby Knuckles.
I think it was Bobby Portis.
Steven. Yeah.
I think he pump faked. Bobby Portis jumped and then kind of like landed on him, right? And it's a foul. And then you go to the line, you shoot your 2 free throws, and that's it. But because Horford kind of played it up, holding his neck, hunches over, he hams it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it goes under review. And I'm like, it just slows down the game. Never mind whether or not it's a flagrant or not, but what it does during that review period is that it slows down the game. It takes the crowd out of it for sure. Mm-hmm. Players get cold. Memphis is a prime example of this, where they actually start going over plays during the review.
Oh yes, free timeout.
100%. And sometimes I'm thinking, like, are they trying to call for a review so that it gives the players some extra time to rest, get a breather? I don't know, but it just seems like it's getting out of hand this playoff.
And just for context, they're not making an official review request, right? They're just telling the refs that you need to look at that foul because it's a hard foul. This is not like an official review, so it's just a waste of time. Really, at the end of the day, it's a waste of time. And yeah, you're right. They are drawing up plays and whatever, so they shouldn't be given that time.
Exactly. And the fact that the refs are just entertaining this time and time again, this kind of makes them foolish.
Put every player and every coach in an isolation booth while they challenge it, while they look at the replay, so that no one can come up with plays.
Or it's like in boxing, if the guy gets knocked down, you tell the other fighter, get to the neutral corner.
Go to your corner, yeah.
Teams are not told to do that. They kind of just go wherever they want, and coaches will just call them over and say, hey, come over here. Let's drop a play. Anyway, you go, Steven. What do you guys think?
Well, I don't think the NBA is getting soft. Like, I think it's about player safety, and like besides Draymond Green's reputational flagrant foul, I think every flagrant was warranted this first and second round of the playoffs. So I don't know. Like, even you have the flagrant. You need a flagrant for the closeouts, right? And that's because like Kawhi got hurt that one year, and they implemented that. So it's like the NBA is getting smarter, but they're the last sport to do that, because in the NFL, you injure players, people aren't going to watch those games. So it's all about the best players available at the peak times. So if guys are going to get hurt, that's why they want it to be like the safest environment for the star players. And they have these flagrants, they have reviews. Back in the day, they didn't care, so guys can do whatever they wanted. I even think
clobber people. Even
in the NHL, I'm not sure, Sean might know, but aren't those enforcer guys like getting out of the league?
They're gone.
They're gone.
Yeah,
right?
they've been phased out. Same in the NBA too. Right? Yeah. To your point, you're 100% correct. The game isn't actually getting softer. It's more
smarter,
physical, and there's bigger guys moving faster that are way more explosive than before. So it's getting more physical.
Yeah, like the players.
Doesn't that make sense for it to call more flagrants and make sure that people are being safe? To Steven's point.
Yeah, but I think Brian's question was, is the NBA getting softer? I think it's perceived as being more soft because the bar for what a flagrant foul is much lower,
right?
But it's actually more physical and less soft, I would say.
I would definitely not say it's more physical.
I mean,
it's more physical, but less fighting. Like you can't just like punch a guy in the throat anymore, right? Like
okay, but even if there was no more goons flagrants, even if there wasn't flagrants, guys weren't fighting in the league. They act like they're gonna fight, and they never do fight.
In the 80s, they fought.
Yeah, but I mean,
they fought back then.
Yeah,
the league is softer.
back in like how many years ago? But now,
but
these guys
and those, those weren't all goons either. Like those were like there was star players fighting, but in the 90s, I would say there was actual goons that were their only job was to come in there and like hack the opposing team's best player or make his day as miserable as possible. You can't come into this league anymore without knowing how to put the ball on the floor and shoot, unless you're like 7'6" Taco Fall and he's barely in the league. Back in the day, every team would employ one or two guys that could barely play, and we don't see those guys anymore.
Yeah, and that was a parallel to the NHL. You're right too.
Exactly.
The NBA had goons in the 2000s. I remember a guy named Dexter Pittman.
But that was it, right? That was the end. 2000 what? 2002, 2003?
No, Dexter Pittman played on the Miami Heat in 2010.
2010.
And he was brought into the game. I remember the game. It was the same series in which Lance Stevenson blew in LeBron's ear. The Indiana Pacers were giving the Miami Heat fits. And Lance Stevenson was a problem. And I remember Lance Stevenson beat his man off the wing like he would always do. And Dexter Pittman made no attempt at the ball and tried to fold Lance Stevenson in half in midair.
Oh, man, it's a collision, and they both go down. And that should be a flagrant foul on Pittman. You wonder if that's another shot at Stevenson to protect LeBron, after the comments from Stevenson. Howard has already done it in his way. But look at this. I mean, just Pittman coming across the lane, a forearm shiver to the neck. My goodness, I didn't see that initially. Well, that is a blatant elbow. It's called a flagrant one.
And he was sent into the game specifically for that reason. Like, we need to end this guy.
Common
if
foul.
we can end his life.
Common foul.
It was not called a flagrant. It was called a foul.
That's maybe a Miami specific thing. Their whole impetus is to kill you wherever they can.
But Dexter Pittman was definitely a goon. I remember watching that. Like, Pittman? Who the hell is Pittman? Let me just check. Is he on the line? Is he in the line? Next thing you know, boom, this guy folds Lance Stevenson in half. I'm like, wow.
By the way, I just watched that highlight. Dexter Pittman.
Yeah.
Definitely was a flagrant foul, firstly. There was 19 seconds left in the fourth, and Miami's up 35.
Yeah.
And he pulls that.
It was a message.
Wow. Yeah.
A couple of things. Number one, I don't know how you can determine intent with a flagrant foul. Like, obviously, there's some situations where you can question it, but I don't know how you can tell if somebody intended to do something or not. If you read the spirit of the rule, there is no context and therefore intent. The rule clearly states unnecessary contact or unnecessary and excessive contact. So whether you meant to do it or you didn't mean to do it, you have a certain responsibility to behave yourself.
Manslaughter. So we're talking.
Yeah,
about
take care of your opponent.
Yeah, I think the other issue is the process. This whole something happens. Players, coaches, whoever, the crowd is able to sway the referees enough to do a review, because you can only call a flagrant unless you review it. I think that's probably the biggest issue with this process, because previously the only way you could initiate a review is by a referee calling a flagrant foul right off the bat. So this whole idea or notion that I need to do a review and see what happened to see if it's legitimately a flagrant 1, flagrant 2, or a common foul or whatever I want to call it, I think it's stupid. I think the referee should take a little bit more control, call it flagrant. If it's not meant to be flagrant, we have a process for that. Things can get rescinded afterwards or adjusted after the game. But the whole mystery, let's, go under the hood and play the Jeopardy music to see what we want to decide afterwards, I don't think it's necessary. Call it what you think it is and keep it moving. Player-wise, yeah, we could talk about them gaming the system, but, that's been going on for decades. Now, this whole fallacy that the league is soft and the players are soft, et cetera, like,
it's a fallacy?
I think it's a fallacy. I don't want to really get too much into it, but everybody who keeps on reminiscing about the old basketball and how rough and tough it was, like, the league was like that. And the league was one of the shittiest leagues on the planet. They didn't make no freaking money.
Whoa.
Right? Made no money, period. So be grateful for what you have, because I know the players are, right? Basketball is a global sport, not as much as soccer. And soccer's pretty soft too, I guess, if we want to talk about it from that standpoint. But the league has been able to grow. The game has been able to grow. It's been going in a great direction. If you want to go back to those old rough and rumble, tumble, whatever days, that's fine. But, I mean, you're going to be poor, broken on a whole bunch of drugs. So I don't know why people like to reminisce about that stuff. A lot of people weren't even alive when they played like that. But I just don't know where this notion is that was a better brand of basketball, because it wasn't.
It's a good epitaph, by the way. Poor, broken on a whole bunch of drugs.
I feel like that's the title of my autobiography.
Yeah, put that on my gravestone.
Yeah.
Brian, great question. You sparked probably the longest discourse that we've had, off of a question. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Brian from Boston, who is not a Celtics fan. We just making an exception.
You're the best.
Ooh.
Hey, just a reminder to listeners, if you want to leave a question for us, please DM us on IG at Get High and Low, or you can send us a DM on TikTok at More High and Low. You can leave a written question, or you can leave an audio note if you want. But you know what? Let's take a quick micro break, because this segment was the longest. Before we're just going to do that before we jump into Every Now and Then. This is High and Low. We'll be right back. Welcome back to High and Low. Time for Every Now and Then, where we look at a team's current starting five and compare it to a starting five from that franchise's past, and opine on who would win a 5v5 to 11. So today we look at Ugo's favorite team to hate, the Philadelphia 76ers.
I almost said the New York Knicks, but I'm glad you added that part.
Ugo hates the 2022 version of the Sixers, and we're going to compare them to the 2000-2001 Philly team led by the namesake of this episode, Allen Iverson.
Not a game.
A squad that made it to the 2001 NBA Finals and fell to the dynastic Lakers of Los Angeles. Yes, tell them. Today, the Sixers starters are James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, and Ugo's favorite player of all time, Joel Embiid. We're comparing that to the 2000-2001 Philadelphia 76ers led by Allen Iverson, Eric Snow, George Lynch, the legend, and the amazing, incredible Tyrone Hill. Oof. And, of course, Dikembe Mutombo. Yes, the House of Mutombo. So who wins in a game to 11 between these two teams?
Can I say one thing? Sorry. The 2001 Sixers went to the finals, and 3 of the players in their starting lineup were trash. Like George Lynch, Eric Snow, and Tyrone Hill were all trash players. How the hell did they get to the finals?
Wow, respectfully.
I feel like Aaron McKee should have been there instead of Snow.
No, he was a 6th man.
I know he's 6th man of the year, so he couldn't have been in there. But Eric Snow's shot was so ugly. I feel like this year's Sixers look so good on paper compared to that one.
And you know what? Eric Snow is the better of those three players also.
Yeah,
that's
especially
really
that
sad.
year. Especially that year. The Eastern Conference was so weak in 2001. Like it was super weak. Like the next best team.
So
was
what's
Milwaukee
the
or
score?
Toronto.
Who do you got?
Even though that team went to the finals and this year's team is not going to the finals, I'm still going. Yeah, they're probably not even going to make the next round. Like I'm still going to go with this year's team. I feel like there's too much firepower. But it pains me to say that because that team had like Defensive Player of the Year, MVP. I think they had the best, Coach of the Year that year, Sixth Man of the Year. You can't really count that. It hurts me to say it, but there's just too much firepower on this year's Sixers. So I'm going to say 11-8 or something.
I got the 2001 76ers winning this because Iverson was the MVP, went to the finals, and was an All-Star MVP. You can't stop. No one's stopping Iverson. And this is street ball. It's up to 11. Harden is washed right now. Maxi's probably the only guy that's going to bring that explosiveness. And Embiid's all right, but then Mutombo's there to do what he's
This guy said Embiid's all right.
No, he's all right. But I mean, like, it's a pickup game. It's up to 11. And guys like Iverson has played these games, like, in the streets. Embiid, probably not so much, right? He just picked up ball at, 20 or something like that?
Hey,
I mean,
it's not true.
Is this like a real NBA game,
true?
just up to 11?
That was
like
that was real.
not a street ball game, just like a full court regular NBA game, but it's done at 11.
At 11. Iverson gonna kill it. Iverson gonna kill. Like, they don't have a player on this current roster that's gone through the wars like Iverson has. There's an MVP. You guys love MVP. Iverson gonna kill these guys.
I just can't take George Lynch. Like,
it doesn't matter. He doesn't. But you're not saying you one man it. He doesn't have to give it back to him. This is not let's play 4 quarters. This is let me get 11 quick and it's over.
It's true.
I was gonna say the same thing. He doesn't have to give it back. He doesn't have to give it to nobody.
Good check. It's the out. Just pass the out every
single time. He's heating them up.
So you're absolutely right, man. Like, Iverson was MVP that year. He shot a terrible percentage because he shot so often. I think he averaged like 30 some odd shots a game, 35 shots a game or something like that year. He is absolutely going to tear it up in a game to 11 in like a 5X t-shirt. He's going to crush these guys because there's you hit the nail on the head. Outside of Embiid, who, by the way, is also an MVP candidate. He's not going to win, I hope. But there's no way that anyone on this team stays with Iverson. Harden, trash. Maxey, trash, I guess, defensively.
Just
Danny Green,
defensively,
washed. Tobias Harris, trash. Joel Embiid, great. Just don't take it into the paint. That's it.
Yeah.
I just like the idea that there's 4 guys that can create their own shot and get their own shot off.
But
on the 2001 team, there's only one. There's only one.
And that's the
goal. But you know what? Sean, you said that all those guys, George Hill, Eric Snow, George Lynch, Eric Snow,
they can all defend.
Hill, all trash. They're all plus defenders. All 3 of those guys are plus defenders. And Mutombo, Defensive Player of the Year, and as we know, it's Mutombo. I'm also picking the 2001 Sixers here, and I think it's not close. I think it's like 11-3.
I just can't.
Points, eh?
Eric Snow and George Lynch's shot just hurts
3
me
points.
to even think about.
Well, because they'll hit 3 shots before they miss. Because the second they miss, and it goes back to 2001 Sixers, it's 11 straight.
I don't know.
It's okay, Sean. It's all right, man. It's opinions.
Yeah, I listen. I got to go with 2000, 2001 76ers because I just I hate.
Yes.
I hate
It's like course.
Not doing it. Now this is the thing, and the other folks touched on this. I mean, you're talking prime Iverson.
Yes.
Not early Iverson, not late Iverson, prime Iverson. And, I know somebody wants to poo-poo on Eric Snow and George Lynch and Tyrone Hill, but I mean, if we're talking Danny Green, Tobias Harris, and Maxey, I mean, is there really that big of a gap between those?
Well, Tyrese Maxey.
Okay,
there
Tyrese
is
Maxey. Okay, I'll give him whatever.
There probably is defensively too.
There's a giant gap on the offense and defense for both squads.
Yeah. All right, so it sounds like it's a gentleman's sweep. 2001
Gentleman's sweep.
Philadelphia 76ers, based on just Allen Iverson being at peak form. Too much for the 2022 Sixers. So, yeah. Listen, it's time to pretend that my Vitamix is broken and ask this segment to put their hand in there and just fix the blades a little bit, only for the blender to magically start working again. Oops.
Ew.
Coming up next, we're looking at the difference between your favorite player and the best player. We'll be right back with more High and Low. This moment is brought to you by High and Low listeners. This week, we had listeners share their top 5 current players they love to hate. We heard from Bigums, our boy in Thousand Oaks, California. Shout out to the High and Low Life Society on the West Coast. Bigums' picks are as follows. At number 5, he has Joel Embiid. Ugo will definitely agree with that. Number 4 is Kyrie Irving. I think Mitch would agree with that. Number 3 is Patrick Beverly. Everyone agrees with that. Number 2 is Trae Young. Yes. And number 1 is Anthony Davis. Wow. Looks like AD's worn out his welcome in Southern California. Anyway, thank you, Bigums. Listeners, let us know who your top 5 are on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram this week. Hey, thanks again. Now let's get back to High and Low. And we are back. Welcome back to High and Low. I'm Ike Amaechi, and I'm here with Ugo, Sean Khan, Stephen Leslie, and Mitch Orsatti. Yes, it's a full house. If you're an NBA fan, if you have any interest in basketball, you most likely have a favorite player. People grow attached to certain players based on the team they play for, that the player plays for. Maybe their style of play. Perhaps they've followed the player's career since, I don't know, like middle school or something like that. Maybe they know the player personally, or maybe they've had an interaction with that player. There are many reasons why people pick a player and declare that that player is their favorite. And in many cases, that player is, by many metrics, not the best player in the NBA. The funny thing is the best player in the league should technically possess all the qualities that would make them a league-wide favorite. I mean, Michael Jordan was almost any sane person's favorite player in the 90s and was by far the best player in the league. Wilt Chamberlain was the most dominant player in his era, and he was the most popular amongst women and men. But like I said, it's not always the case. You know, today many would tell you that Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA.
What?
Others would tell you that Giannis is the best player in the NBA. Yet you have legions of LeBron stans, Russell Westbrook fanatics, Dame Lillard loyalists, minions of Kawhi Leonard. You know, the list goes on. So there seems to be a difference between who the best is and who the most popular player is, or who the most popular players are. King would have you. Yes, man, I'm trying to monologue here, man.
Sorry, man. You didn't say. I'm sorry. You didn't say Kevin Durant, man. That's all. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. My bad.
Anyway, King would have you believe that people don't like watching Jokic play for various reasons, but he's not here to defend that position. So we'll leave that alone, and I'll ask you all this question. What's the difference between the league's best player and your favorite player in the NBA? Who wants to hit this one first? Pause.
What? Come on.
Currently, the league's best player is always some efficient statistical media push player, right? So usually they're not a winner, and people have faith for them to win. It's just like Mitch and Jokic.
Oh.
My favorite player, though, has always been like the underdog type with grit, determination to prove everyone else wrong. And you guys already know my favorite player has been Kobe. Along the years, in a stretch, I've added Westbrook because I like the way he plays. But currently, I don't really have a favorite player since Kobe's passed away and Westbrook's it's gone south a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Oh, boy.
Oh.
That's good. Thanks for that. Like that laugh.
Curry? No Curry.
For what? What? Curry can't be my favorite player. You give this whole thing about Curry to begin this podcast, and I was thinking, damn, all that, and this guy has no Finals MVP. It's like
boy.
I need
Here
those
we
I need those guys that are they're about it. You know what I mean?
All right, I got a couple things to say here. I'm going to start with the most recent thing that Steven just said.
I wasn't
about-
even finished, but that's fine.
Well, I think you're
I
finished.
was gonna say Jokic is trash.
Yeah, you're finished. You started by saying you only root for the underdogs, right? Underdog.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Underdog.
Remind
type.
When
Here it
when
goes.
Nikola Jokic was drafted. Was it the second round?
He go to Portland, right?
Hmm.
I wasn't watching Portland.
No, he was drafted by Denver. You're thinking of
Denver.
Nurkic.
Oh, Nurkic. Not the
Wrong
same.
one.
Not the same.
Xenophobic? Oh,
No,
yeah, no
no.
problem. So right off the hop, I'll just here. This is what I think of your take. Just toss that away.
Wow.
So-
Wow.
Since I really began loving basketball, this is not aligned for me ever. In the 90s, Jordan was obviously right up there, but I always preferred Rodman. That was my favorite player. And then Rodman was around for a long time. I loved him for a long time. We get into the guys like Boris Diaw, Manu Ginobili, Josh Smith for a really quick spell. I really like Josh Smith. Andre Kirilenko.
Me too. I like Josh.
I've always I've always liked these guys who just do the dirty work. Kyle Lowry, another one. Do the dirty work, get the job done, defense first. And then blissfully, here we are. My favorite player and the best player in the league align. Nikola Jokic. Oh, thank you so much for coming into the league. There is no difference between the best and my favorite. And there we are.
Wow. Wow. This is crafted for you, man.
Wow. Well done. Well done.
You're welcome.
The best European player.
Interesting.
Uh-oh.
Ugo, what about you, man?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, my favorite player back in the day, I'm gonna say two because they'll be forever linked, was Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. That was just my favorite to watch growing up.
Feel bad for you.
I know. Best player.
Tough way to go, man.
Yeah, shut up. I don't know. Best player. I'm a fan of Curry. I'll just go with the easy cheat code. Curry, 3-pointers, always nice to watch. Difference, just the time frame, right? For me, Gary Payton and Sean Kemp watching. I've said it before. Watching their highlights on CNN Sports at 11 o'clock at night, it was just a treat to behold. Curry's exciting, so that's my flop answer, so to speak.
So can I interject this for a second?
Go ahead.
I have a theory.
Yeah.
Back in the day, in the 90s, I think there was a NBA show with a top 10 countdown.
Yes.
And I think I remember that almost every single week, half of those highlights in the top 10 were Gary Payton and Sean Kemp.
Yep. They were on fire for at least one season, 1 year.
Was that inside stuff?
No, it wasn't
no.
inside stuff.
No.
Courtside countdown.
Yeah.
Courtside countdown. NBA action.
NBA action.
That's
NBA
what it was.
action.
Yeah,
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
So NBA action, I'm telling you, because I knew some people that were Gary Payton fans or they were Sean Kemp fans. Never both, though. That's kind of weird because that makes sense that you'd basically tie the two together.
Yep.
But it was based on that highlight show. It was based on NBA action. And those guys never watched the game, by the way. So what does it say about you?
Oh, wow.
I watched a
All
few
that to
games,
get
maybe
there, right?
not supersonic games, but well played. Butter me up and then knock me down. I see what you did there.
I'm sorry, man.
Was that for me interrupting you because you didn't mention Durant in your list?
Damn.
Yeah, kind of, you know.
Well played.
Is Curry really your favorite though?
Listen, man, I threw up a cheat code, man. I told you that. It's a flop answer.
Curry's fun to watch, man.
Yeah, he's fun
I
to
can
watch,
see-
but I threw up whatever.
I see why I can see why Curry would be a favorite of many.
Yeah, but
I mean, so many kids play just like Curry now. You know, he's affected the game. He's impacted the game in ways that you'd think that, hey, a lot of people actually love the way he plays.
It's not even the way people are playing. It's people that don't play basketball that just started watching basketball because of the Warriors in the mid 2010 decade. There's a lot of fans that are like Warrior fans now for life because of Curry that don't even play basketball.
Yeah. He's a casuals champion.
So he goes a bandwagon casual fan then.
Wow.
Whoa.
I wasn't even going there. I wasn't even going there.
That's what I'm hearing.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Let me. Hold on.
No, you can use my thing. Get out of here.
Yeah, I know, man. What's going on, man?
Get out of here.
This guy loves stealing everyone's ideas, man.
Who hasn't gone?
I haven't gone, but I'll be quick because I don't.
My bad, Sean. Because I know you don't like going last.
It's okay. I don't mind going last this time because I don't really have a favorite player anymore. I haven't really had a favorite player since Michael Jordan. So I think now my favorite player is like the best player on my favorite team, but that's since Larry left the Raptors. I don't think I can say that anymore. For a minute, my favorite player was actually Lance Stevenson. We were talking about him quite a bit, but like when he was, like I said, averaging 14, 7, and 7 and challenging the Heat that year, he was actually my favorite player for a minute, and he was like highly entertaining, doing all this like crazy stuff behind the scenes. I think my favorite player now is Jimmy Butler, but I think Anthony Edwards is slowly creeping into that conversation. So for me, it does differ greatly because no one I said except Michael Jordan is the best player in the league. So, it's tough because my favorite player is usually related to my favorite team or someone or a team that I really like. So, none of those guys have been the best player in the league for quite some time. So it's different for me.
First of all, shout out to you for saying that Lance Stevenson was your favorite player because goodness gracious, Lance Stevenson was definitely in my top 5 for a while. But it's very interesting that aside from, of course, Mitch, everyone's favorite player.
You're gonna say my name like that, Mitch? Man.
I'm just saying. You kind of pulled the whole. Let me just rub the salt in the wound right here because Jokic. But I'm just saying, like, there's that difference between your favorite and the best.
For sure.
Like, why is that? As fans of the game, especially on this podcast and talking basketball as much as we do, we can really appreciate the tangibles and the skill involved, and you can easily identify a player who is playing on that superstar level. So why wouldn't the player who is playing on a higher level than anyone else be your favorite player?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think, when we're talking about Jokic, you got to include guys like Embiid and Giannis in that same conversation, right? Like, I think the point that I'm trying to make here is like, there are so many players playing at that level now that you have kind of the wealth of choice, right? Like, I think your top 3 are Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis right now in whatever order you want. And then there's even another tier below that who people are willing to put in that tier. So we're spoiled, I think.
Yeah, it's way more saturated now. Like there's 8 guys that could be considered the best player in the league, whereas in Jordan's day there was one clear-cut winner, and that's why he was everyone's favorite.
Yeah, you have a guy like, say for example, Kawhi Leonard. I think if Kawhi Leonard played 75 to 80 games a year, I think we could honestly be telling him every year.
Yeah,
every year. I think that Kawhi Leonard, undoubtedly, I think unanimously, I think by consensus, many people would consider him to be the best player in the NBA.
I agree with that.
Right. But
it's a personality issue with him though too, where sometimes like, people gravitate to like the fun guys and like someone who's more outgoing, someone who says stuff in the post game. Look at KD. Like as much as some people don't like KD will hop in on Twitter and talk to you and on those voice chat stuff. Like it's crazy. So it's like Kawhi's very standoffish, where you're like, yo, he's good, he's great. I'm not sure if he could be my best player, my favorite player.
But Kawhi's standoffishness almost became a meme and almost a reason to like him.
Because people made fun of it.
but that was also a reason why people liked him.
People were just,
like he even made shirts about it. You know what I mean? Like fun guy. Like
board
the
man
irony.
Paid, yeah.
Exactly. Like his standoffishness or his Melba Toast type of personality was almost a reason to say, hey, I like that. You know what I mean? Like he leaned into it, or whoever was on his team, the marketing, maybe it's New Balance, whatever.
It's the Raptors, man.
But he wasn't anyone's favorite
possibly.
player.
Anyway, all right. So, there's going to be a divide. Our favorite players and the best player in the NBA, just not the same. Unless you're Mitch. Mitch got it right. It all came together in these last few years.
Just took 30-ish years. No problem.
Why the fuck I can't shoot 3-point shots?
This brings us to the end of yet another episode of the High and Low Basketball Podcast. So thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Ugo. Thank you, Steven. Thank you, Sean. If you haven't done so, subscribe to High and Low anywhere you find podcasts. Listen, hey, I haven't mentioned this in a while. So let's leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It allows other future high and low lights to find the program. My grandfather was a 5-star general. I once attended a 5-star basketball camp. I see 5 stars in the sky at this very moment. 5 stars. Hey, go to the High and Low YouTube channel for bonus content. Click on that bell and subscribe. We're on Instagram at Get High and Low, as I mentioned earlier. We're on Twitter and TikTok at More High and Low. So where can listeners find you, Sean?
Oh, first this week. Wow. Crazy. Crazy. Wow. Switching it up.
Spell it.
Spell it.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at Sean_controversy with no E.
No E.
Oh, cop out.
There actually is an E, but not where you think it. Not where I usually place
That's
it.
perfect. Yeah. No E's. Oh, except for that one E.
There's actually 2 E's.
Oh, this is going downhill. All right, you can find Sean there.
I'm never first again. I should never go first again.
Listen, man, you get another chance. Mitch, where can they find you, man?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at ThirstyVillain. And that's it. I'm on hiatus at Raptors HQ. That's not true. I'm going to be pumping out some off-season stuff. Find me there,
man.
too.
Steven, where can they find you, man?
Y'all probably not going to find me.
Wow.
All right.
Did you insult Drake or something like that?
It's because his wife walked in when he made that comment. He's done.
Gotcha.
You guys are just talking about my wife and stuff. All right.
All up in his feelings right now. Anyway, Ugo, where can they find you, man?
I'm also incognito. I'm just admiring Masai's Dream Like They Dream tweet. So
not where I thought you were going with that for a second.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I think I'm just spend some time dreaming. That's what I'm gonna do.
Who's Masai?
Best GM
the greatest executive GM in Nigerian on the planet. Hello.
Is he a GM?
Is that why you guys
He's not a GM.
lost in the first round?
He's a president.
Stop it.
Wow.
Great
Stop
GM,
it.
But you lose in the round one.
Oh man, where did the Lakers finish this year? Oh,
No,
don't
we,
ask.
we don't have a great GM though. That's a difference. You guys have this great GM.
I know.
You're
LeBron's a
losing in
terrible
round
GM.
one.
I agree.
I can't believe this guy admitted that. Wow. We record this, right? This is live, right?
It's a fact.
Okay. Fine,
It's
He'll be gone soon.
It's
LeBron will be gone soon.
Yeah.
Imagine-
Dark days are ahead, my friend.
It's crazy.
I see what you did there.
There's a double
Yeah, you
standard.
see, I appreciate you.
I was
Sean.
on
Thank
here
you,
saying my coach or my player or something was great, and we were losing in round one. You guys would kill me. I say it, and you guys, oh, it's not fair.
Remind me where pundits put the Lakers and where they put the Raptors. Where were they supposed to finish?
Gosh, this guy.
We won a championship.
And
This is a great
yeah, man,
outro.
That's the episode.
that's another episode of High and
Should have
Petty.
started off.
What? Once again, music is by Live of the Enjoy Music Group. You can find Live on Twitter and on TikTok. Oh, sorry, you can find them on Twitter and IG. I don't know if you can find them on TikTok. Check to see if you can find Live on TikTok. But if you do, spell it Lyve. Music is also by Sonny Rockwell of The Goodness. You can't find that guy anywhere. You will not find him on TikTok, I promise you. You might find his music, but not him. Sound design is by Vonn+Abrahamm. This is a Vonn+Abrahamm podcast, just in case you didn't know. So on behalf of Mitch, Ugo, Sean, Steven, I'm Ike Amaechi. Thank you for listening to High and Low. We'll see you next week.